Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela Kay, and today we are looking at the Vallow case again. If you've never seen my coverage of this case, please check out the playlist that's in the description box for you. We've done a deep dive. There's part 1, 2, 3, and 4 that was a very deep dive. So if you've never heard of it, start there. You'll get a really, not even an overview, you're going to get a deep dive on the case. And now the trial has started. It reminds me of the Letecia Stauch trial. Sorry, I just want to move something over here. Because it took so long to get to this point. And initially, it was supposed to be Vallow and Chad Daybell. Okay, they were supposed to go on trial together, but then their trials were severed. So he's going to have his trial probably next year, is what it looks like. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much, Island Girl 21. Happy Sunday to everyone, and thank you so much for being here. So what I prepared for you today would be the opening statements. So let me bring that up. Just hold on one second. Opening statements. Yeah, we saw it. We didn't see it on this channel, though. We didn't see it on this channel. It's never too late. You know what I'm saying? So if you heard it already, don't worry. You don't have to be here to listen with me. But here I give commentary and just my take on the case. So thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't ever heard it before, then yeah, we're going to go through that together. This trial is expected to last 8 weeks, and it's already been 2 weeks. So they've had 10 days of the trial, including jury selection, opening statements, and then 4 other days. So I've done a little breakdown of Chad Daybell's recording where he was giving Alex Cox a blessing. So go check that out. And the reason I'm doing this today as well is because I am providing little summaries and updates, but I don't know, if you're anything like me, you got to start at the beginning. We got to start at the opening statements before I do all of those things. It just makes sense, even though maybe some of us have heard it. All right. Hold on one second. Let's bring it up for you. Okay, so what I've done here is I've got the audio that I purchased, and I also put overlays on pictures and things. So those of us who are visual learners, we at least have something to look at as we listen to this. And so let's see what you guys are saying. Cherry, thank you so much. This channel is the best for coverage, and now G pushes further by covering court cases for us. Wouldn't go anywhere else. The thing is, on my channel, I've always done trial prep, documents, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it actually only makes sense to do the trials as well. Tammy says, you look so fresh, G, after a week of Letecia. And last night, we were up all night here in the Netherlands. I was up with you guys until 6 in the morning. Going over Leticia's phone calls. Oh my word. So if you missed that replay, check it out. Or I've uploaded the phone call for you, which you can check out as well, just without any commentary. It's a little bit shorter. Okay. So are we ready to listen to these opening statements? Do you guys know about the case at all or not? Do you or not? Vallow on trial. Let's just quickly summarize her charges here. I've got the documents as well for that. I just quickly want to see just a summary so that you know. So she is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of conspiracy in the deaths, as well as grand theft auto for collecting government benefits on behalf of her children after they were killed. There's a lot of deaths surrounding Vallow. This trial is about JJ and Tylee, her children, as well as Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife, who her body was exhumed and they found she was asphyxiated and she did not die of natural death. Wow. Lady T, welcome to membership. You have no idea. Okay. You have some idea of the case. So you know it. I'm just checking if we're all on the same page. Well, the opening statements will give us a good idea as well. If you don't know anything, they should give you a good overview timeline. But I would recommend checking out the playlist. I've even done a summary video for you there so that you can get all caught up. Are we ready? Here we go. So we start off with the prosecutor, Lindsey Blake. Just hold on one second. Here we go.
Money, power, and sex. That's what this case is about. The defendant, Vallow Daybell, used money, power, and sex, or the promise of those things, to get what she wanted. What she wanted was money, power, and sex. It didn't matter what obstacle she had to remove to get what she wanted. It didn't matter if the obstacle was a thing or a person. And if it was a person, it didn't matter who. Tylee Ryan was a vibrant young woman, 17 years old, a whole life ahead of her. She was just about to enter into adulthood and make her own way in the world. Who knows what she would have become?
So on the left-hand side is the prosecutor who's talking at the opening statements. And on the right-hand side is a picture of Tylee Ryan, Lori Vallow's daughter. And oh man, have the details of the trial already been very, very graphic of how her remains were found on Chad Daybell's property. Lori Vallow was married 5 times. She seemed to really like that life insurance, huh? And because of her, she's called the cult mom, doomsday mom, and all of that because of Lori and Chad's religious beliefs mixed in with, I don't know, rating people as zombies and light and dark and all of that. They really just wanted to eliminate anyone in their way. That's what it seems like, of being together. So Chad Daybell's wife was killed and Lori's children were killed. And before that, Lori's 4th husband was killed. And then eventually Lori's brother, Alex Cox, dropped dead. They say from high blood pressure and blood clots. But that's quite sus, especially in hearing Chad's blessing, which we went over, I think, 2 days ago. So go check out that episode if you did miss it, okay? Oh, yes. Thank you, Barbara, for clarifying for everyone. This trial is not televised. So what we have to do is listen to the audio. This is why I provided pictures for you so that we have something to look at because it's only audio.
Tylee had already lost her father, and she received Social Security benefits because of that. Tylee had money. Lori wanted it. Tylee's gone. Joshua Jackson Vallow, lovingly known by friends and family as JJ, was a 7-year-old, vibrant, happy-go-lucky little boy. He had most of his childhood and his whole life ahead of him. But JJ was tough. He's a 7-year-old. He took a lot of time and effort and energy to care for. That time, effort, and energy took away from the defendant doing what she wanted to do, and from the defendant being with Chad Daybell and devoting her time and attention to him. JJ had also lost his father. And when JJ lost his father, he became even that much more difficult to care for. No longer a second parent to help. Not only that, JJ also was entitled to Social Security benefits. The defendant didn't want to have to take care of JJ anymore. She wanted the money. JJ's gone. Tamara Douglas Daybell, known by friends and family as Tammy, a 49-year-old mother of 5, a grandmother, a computer whiz by all accounts. She was married to Chad Daybell. The defendant wanted Chad all to herself. Chad was the beneficiary of a life insurance policy for Tammy. Lori wanted those things. Tammy's gone. Tylee was last seen on September.
I'm just going to pause it there. Touche said you can never sum up this case in 5 minutes. You really can't. That's why, man, I would recommend checking out that playlist if you do want to know more about this case because it's so insane. You need diagrams. You need all kinds of arrows and things connected. This, that. It's just there's so many deaths surrounding Lori Vallow, and especially when she met Chad Daybell. It's insane. So what I can do quickly for you is on East Idaho News, they do such a good job of summarizing things. So if we just briefly look at the timeline, even just from they say this, you just heard in the opening statements, this case starts in October 2018 is what Lindsey Blake said, okay? They say Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow finally meet in person for the first time at a religious conference in Utah. Both of them were married. Chad was married to Tammy Daybell, had 5 children with her. Lori Vallow married to Charles Vallow. And now these two meet and they just think, wow, like cults, sex, money, power, zombies, just weird stuff, man. Portals in cupboards and just all kinds of things, okay? So in October 2018, they meet for the first time. Their eyes lock and they They take a sharp left to Crazy Town. Now, in February 2019, Charles Vallow then filed for divorce, saying that he fears for the safety of himself and the children. And this comes after he contacted the police, saying that Lori Vallow had threatened to kill him and that she believed that he was a god preparing she was a god, right? She believed that she was a god preparing for a second coming. He had pleaded with authorities for mental health intervention for his wife, but she was deemed competent at the time. If you think Letecia was in any way manipulative, you should see this one. And we've gone over her, her police interviews and stuff before, which is also on the playlist. I'm just giving you some bullet points for those who just need a little bit of a refresher. Then, the 11th of July, 2019, Charles Vallow is shot dead by Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, at Miss Vallow's home in Chandler, Arizona. Now, Alex was kind of like they say in here that Alex said, I hope I'm not their fall guy. He was their fall guy. He was like Lori and Chad's hitman. That's basically how he operated, especially Lori's. He was very close to Lori. He would do anything that she wanted him to do. So Cox claims that he shot Vallow in self-defense when Vallow tried to attack him with a baseball bat. Okay, so I'm just going to go forward now with these bullet points. September 2019, Lori Vallow moves with JJ and Tylee and Alex Cox, you see, she tags her brother along, to Rexburg, Idaho, where Chad Daybell lives. Then in September of 2019, Lori, Alex, JJ, and Tylee visit Yellowstone National Park. Photos of the family members there mark the last signs of life for Tylee. The 9th of September 2019, Alex's phone places him in the yard of Chad Daybell's property for around 2 hours in the morning. Chad Daybell texts his wife, Tammy Daybell, to say that he shot a raccoon and he buried the animal in the pet cemetery on the grounds of the property. Problem is, he buried the children, Lori's children. Now, it's 22nd of September 2019, JJ is last seen alive. He attends Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg, Idaho. And then Lori just said he's going to be homeschooled. On the 23rd of September 2019, Lori tells Melanie Gibb and David Warwick, which we'll hear in the trial as well. When I do all these summaries, Melanie Gibb's already given a full testimony. There was a lot of information there. So did Zulema Pastenes, which is Alex Cox's wife. Okay, there's a lot, as I say. There's a lot. This case, you think Letecia's crazy? This case is crazy. So wish me luck, because I tackle both trials. Oh my word, it's a lot. So we've got that. Okay, then Alex Cox's cell phone places him in Chad Daybell's backyard again. Miss Vallow also calls JJ's school to say he's no longer attending, he'll be homeschooled. On the 2nd of October 2019, there's this attempted hit on Brandon Boudreaux, the ex-husband of Lori's niece, Melanie. Whew. Okay, 9th of October 2019, Tammy Daybell calls 911 after someone shoots at her with a paintball gun in the driveway of her home. The 19th of October 2019, just look at that. 10 days later, Tammy dies suddenly in her sleep, age 49. And her death is ruled natural causes until they exhume her body and they're like, whoa, asphyxiation. Let's go to the 5th of November 2019. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, they get married on a beach in Hawaii. Oh, yes, they're celebrating. Children gone, wife gone, a husband, everyone gone, just like, yay, let's get married and go to Hawaii. So the two of them, they get married. They're living their best life in Hawaii after all these people have just died. Been murdered is the most accurate word there. Wow. 11th of December 2019, Alex Cox, the brother, he suddenly dies, age 51, of natural causes, with indications of a blood clot wedged in the arteries of his lungs. The overdose drug Narcan is also found in his system. Oh yes, welcome to membership, Tasha. The 12th of December, Tammy Daybell's body is exhumed. So, because you see, the cops started saying, wait. Something's going on here. Something's going on. So then, Tammy's body is exhumed so an autopsy can be completed. Her death is deemed suspicious, but no cause of death is released. Later, asphyxiation. January 2020, search is carried out on Chad Daybell's property for the first time. On the 25th of January, Lori and Chad are located by authorities in Hawaii because nobody could find them. Nobody knew where the children were. On the 30th of January, Lori Vallow fails to produce her children or to disclose to authorities where they are, which is in violation of the Madison County, Idaho court order. 21st of February 2020, Lori Vallow is arrested in Hawaii on charges of child abandonment and desertion. She's also charged with resisting officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, and contempt of court. She was held on a $5 million bond. So you could see how long. Yeah. William Creature, you're saying it exactly how it is. It's like, holy. 9th of June 2020. JJ and Tylee's remains are discovered on Chad Daybell's property. They played the phone call in court as well. We've already heard the phone call as well. It's on the playlist, right? Where he's like, they were searching the yard. And she's like, hi, baby, from jail. He's like, oh, they're searching the yard. She's like, they're searching the yard? Oh, yeah, found the children's remains. It was so bad. So, trigger warning. This content is for adults only. I'm going to quickly describe how they were found. JJ's body is found in a black plastic bag wrapped in duct tape near a tree. A piece of wood paneling and 3 large white flat rose have been laid in a row over his remains in the earth. Remember, Chad Daybell was a gravedigger, his former career before he became a self-published author, making all these cult zombie apocalypse books, right? That Lori was just like, wow, for. Tylee's remains are found a short distance away, buried in the pet cemetery. Remember the raccoon story? Her body had been dismembered and burned in a fire pit, according to court documents. Mr. Daybell was arrested in order to be held on a $1 million bond. Days later, authorities confirm the remains do belong to the 2 missing children. Lori Vallow and Mr. Daybell are later charged with destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence, but it's many more months before murder charges are filed. May 2021, Lori and Chad are both charged over the murders of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy Daybell in Idaho. They are each charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy, and grand theft in connection with the deaths of JJ and Tylee, and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in the death of Tammy. They were buying malachite Amazon rings, already planning their wedding before Tammy even died. 27th of May 2021, Lori Vallow is ruled unfit to stand trial and is committed to a psychiatric facility for treatment. Yeah, like Letecia. June 2021, Lori Vallow is charged with conspiring to murder her ex-husband Charles Vallow in Arizona. Prosecutors say she conspired with Alex Cox. August 2021, prosecutors in Idaho vow to seek the death penalty against Lori Vallow. Not anymore. That's been changed now. It's now been dropped, okay? And Chad Daybell for the murders of JJ Tylee and Tammy Daybell. 11th of October 2022, Lori Vallow is deemed competent to stand trial. 19th of October 2022, Lori Vallow appears in court for her arraignment on charges over murders of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy Daybell. She refuses to enter a plea, prompting a judge to enter a not guilty plea on her behalf. 2nd of March 2023, an Idaho judge rules that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell will be tried. You see how recent that was? They'll be tried separately for the murders of JJ and Tylee and Tammy, and Mr. Daybell's case will be rescheduled, which, while Ms. Vallow's one will go ahead as planned on April 3rd. 21st of March 2023, the judge rules that Lori Vallow will not face the death penalty for allegedly killing her 2 children and conspiring to Chad Daybell's ex-wife. The ruling comes after Ms. Vallow's defense requests the death penalty be taken off the table because they won't have time to fully review the vast trove of evidence handed over in the recent weeks. Mr. Daybell still faces the death penalty at his trial. And then, on the 3rd of April 2023, Lori Vallow's trial for allegedly killing her 2 children and conspiring to kill Tammy Daybell began in Idaho. Today is April 16th. Trial started April 3rd. Okay, so there's been 2 weeks of the trial. It's expected to last 8 weeks. Are we all caught up now? I hope that was a good overview. So we go back to the opening statements. We've already listened to 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So let's continue on. Lori Vallow trial opening statements, Prosecutor Lindsey Blake. So they first had 5 days. The first 5 days were jury selection. Then they kicked off with a trial. Day 6, opening statements. So they've had 10 days worth of trial. Yes. Okay.
September 8th of 2019. She had just relocated with her mother to Rexburg, Idaho on or about September 1st of 2019. And 7 days later is the last known sighting of Tylee. The next time Tylee is seen is on June 9th of 2020. She's found buried in a shallow grave on Chad Daybell's property. And when I say she's found, what I mean is what was left of Tylee was found. Charred remains. That's what was left of Tylee. You will hear it described as a mass of bone and tissue. That's what was left of this beautiful young woman, the defendant's daughter. You will also hear how Tylee's DNA was recovered on a pickaxe and shovel located in a shed on defendant Daybell's property.
So these are actually pictures of Chad Daybell's backyard and when they were digging up the children's remains. On the right-hand side is Prosecutor Lindsey Blake. The picture you saw just before this was of Tylee and JJ and Alex Cox.
Property. JJ was last seen on September 22nd of 2019 at the defendant's apartment in Rexburg, Idaho. Last time JJ was seen, he was with his uncle, Alex Cox, the defendant's brother. You'll hear from a witness that he saw Alex Cox carrying JJ. JJ's head on his shoulder. Appeared to be a peaceful scene. Appeared JJ was sleeping at that time. JJ was not seen again until June 9th of 2020.
So apparently Lori's brother, Alex Cox, I think he was the one to kill the children. I mean, he would be on trial too if he wasn't dead. See, they made that problem go away, apparently. Although they say natural death, I don't know if I believe that though. But he came to Lori's apartment, picked JJ up, and carried him out. And Lori and Chad had a podcast going. They were recording a podcast and busy with that. He carried JJ out and he was never seen alive again. And oh man, when they described the graphic details of what they found in this backyard, Lori couldn't handle it. She's been smiling the whole time. There's some pictures in this whole visual that I've made for you where you'll see Lori, but she's been smiling in court. She's had a little, her hair all done and ponytailed up and her, I don't know what, Jolly Ranchers lipstick and, really trying to look her best in court, smiling, but the smile was wiped off her face as this trial started, is what they're reporting. Nate Eaton on East Idaho News is live outside the court almost every day, and he updates us of how everyone looked and where they sat and what happened, right? So check that out if you haven't yet. But when they started describing the graphic details of how these children were found, Lori couldn't handle it. And court ended early on Wednesday because her attorney requested that she not be present in court. And you know what I like so much is that the judge was like, oh, she will be. She's going to be present in court. Yes? Okay.
When he was also found in a shallow grave on the defendant's property. JJ was found wrapped in garbage bags with duct tape around him.
The picture on the right is the attorney, the same attorney we just showed. Lindsey Blake, the prosecutor, yes.
He had duct tape around his head. He had duct tape around his arms, taping them into a position like this. That's how the defendant's little boy was found. You will hear what a difficult scene that was to process. Law enforcement had been searching for these children since November of 2019, and even the most veteran law enforcement officers you'll hear from were disturbed by the scene. Some may have still been holding out hope against all odds that we'd find these children alive, but this wasn't what they expected to find. Tammy was...
This is a picture of Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife. She was the one that just suddenly, they say, died of natural causes, but later, after her body was exhumed, they were like, whoa, she was asphyxiated. Now, Chad was with her for over 20 years and had 5 children with her. What an absolute betrayal. To meet Lori and be like, yeah, I want to be with her so badly. Yep, my wife's got to go. Wow. Very, very scary. So Tammy Daybell on the left, the prosecutor speaking, Lindsey Blake on the right.
Last seen alive on the night of October 18th of 2019. Her son left to work. She was home alone with Chad Daybell on that night. On the morning of October 19th, just before 6 a.m., a 911 call is placed. Tammy's dead. She's cold and she's stiff. What we know is by the time law enforcement showed up, Chad Daybell had moved her body. Chad Daybell gives a description that Tammy wasn't feeling well, she'd been sick. Very few other witnesses report any concerns about Tammy's health. And mind you, at the time law enforcement show up at Tammy's death, when it's been reported, it's unknown at that time about JJ and Tylee missing. It's unknown that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell are in any kind of a relationship. So nothing about Tammy's death is initially deemed to be suspicious. You will hear that the defendant was in Hawaii at the time Tammy died. And you will also hear that less than 3 weeks later, 17 days to be exact, the defendant and Chad Daybell were back in Hawaii. They were getting married on a sunny beach in Hawaii.
Look at them. I mean, his wife had just been asphyxiated. We're not sure if it was him or Alex that did that. I would speculate him. And her children were just murdered and buried in his backyard. And these two, they'd planned this whole thing. I mean, they'd already bought the ring and everything before Tammy was murdered. And all of that before the kids were murdered. They were buying rings, planning this wedding, right? And here they are in Hawaii. Look, when I look at this picture every time, I'm just shocked that they look so happy and so in love. And, really no remorse, no shame, no anything. Just like, oh, yes, this is what's meant to happen. They believe that they were married many times in past lives. They've got all sorts of theories, okay?
Dancing and celebrating their life together, while Tylee and JJ were cold in the ground in shallow graves, and while Tammy had just barely been laid to rest in the Springville, Utah cemetery, her hometown. The missing children, the sudden death of Tammy, the quick marriage of Chad and the defendant left so many questions for those still grieving the loss of Tammy.
Yes, these are the children, JJ and Tylee.
And those still wondering 24/7 about the whereabouts and safety of the children.
And while everyone was worried about where are the children, no one had seen them for weeks, right? JJ, 7 years old, Tylee, 17 years old. Where the heck are the children? Oh no, Lori and Chad are just living it up in Hawaii. They're just loving it. And extended family members are just like, we need to find these kids. And eventually, by looking through emails and all kinds of stuff, tracking them, yes, to Hawaii, where eventually Lori was arrested.
You will also hear how the defendant had switched Tylee's money from Tylee's JP Morgan Chase account to go into the defendant's BBVA account on or about August 16th of 2019. Tylee went missing on September 8th of 2019. You will also hear how she had begun receiving benefits on JJ's behalf approximately a month before he was last seen. And you will hear how she continued to collect those benefits and that money to fund her lifestyle.
She really did. And apparently she was even annoyed in court finding out that Charles Vallow had switched his life insurance policy to his sister. So his sister received everything. And we heard the life insurance call that Lori made right after Charles Vallow was shot by her brother, Alex Cox. It's a very busy story. So again, check out the playlist if you want to see all the mind maps, all the things. But yeah, she was very into collecting life insurance and the benefits, financial benefits from people's deaths. Can you imagine if someone like her and Alec Murdaugh met each other? Whoa, imagine that.
You are going to hear a lot of different dates and events that occurred on those dates, phone calls that were placed on those dates, messages that were sent, financial transactions that occurred. The reason you're going to hear about so many dates and so many events is because I've talked about dates in 2019 and 2020. This case actually starts in October of 2018.
You see, they said it starts in October 2018. So when I just did that summary, that's where I started reading from. Rexburg, Idaho is where Lori moved to live with Chad. Wow. And these sketches, by the way, are pencil and watercolor sketches that are being published every day because this trial is not televised. So they're literally drawing sketches of how everyone looked in court on the day.
In October of 2018, the defendant met Chad Daybell for the first time. You'll hear that she had read his books. She was a fan of his. But she traveled to a Preparing the People conference in St. George, Utah. She traveled there with her friends, Melanie Gibb and Zulema Pastenes. These are two women that you will hear more about, and you will hear from them during this trial. When she traveled there with them, she met Chad for the first.
This is Melanie Gibb, Lori Vallow's BFF, well, ex-BFF, I would assume. And she has also taken the stand, and we're going to break down her testimony soon as well, because that's a whole thing.
Time. You'll hear it described that there appeared to be some kind of an instant connection. The two of them talked a lot. The defendant was flirty. But what you will also hear is that during this first meeting, the defendant and Chad decide that they share purported religious beliefs, and that they share beliefs that the two of them had been married before in a prior probation. You will hear it talked about multi-creations or a prior probation or a prior life. But regardless of the term used, what they began to tell others is that they were essentially meant to be together. They'd been married in prior lives, prior probations.
Can you imagine that these two say that they were married in previous lives, both on Earth and on other planets as well? Okay, by the way. But that on this Earth and in this life, this is what they decide to do? Murder Chad's wife? Have her kids murdered so they could be together and benefit off the life insurance and all that? Wow. Yes. NYC girl says, I'm so disappointed this trial isn't televised. I think we all are, right? We all are. Crown Eye says, G is on a mission to cover both trials. 100%. Nice. Yes. Oh, my word. And Nisi said, Lori, Alex and Letecia, the three musketeers of murder. Whew. Yes, and these trials are now set to finish at the same time because Letecia's got about 6 weeks to go as well. They both are supposed to be about 8 weeks, and both have already happened for 2 weeks.
Not only that, but they both said that they had been prior figures from or persons from the Bible or other religious references. This will include that they designated themselves as James and Elena. And you will hear that they pursued this line of thought and they pursued these teachings to others to the extent that Chad Daybell wrote a story, the James and Elena story for Lori, for the defendant. And you will hear through testimony how that story mirrored some true life events that were going on.
Why couldn't they be together without all the murder? Money, I would say. Money and convenience. Well, they said money, power, and sex. That's what the prosecutor opened with. But so they needed to get it on at all times or something. I don't know. These two, chemistry, flying, wanted life insurance money, and because of their delusional religious beliefs, which it started off as LDS, part of the LDS church and Mormonism, but it morphed into something else. They created their own cult.
Between the defendant and Chad Daybell. And at the time they met, it's important to remember they were both married to other people. Their spouses were both alive and well when they first met. But again, remember, the defendant will remove any obstacle in her way to get what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted Chad Daybell. She had decided that. Soon after that first meeting in October of 2018, you will hear how the defendants began communicating regularly. Their relationship moved quickly. You will hear how Chad traveled to Arizona that next month in November of 2018. He traveled for a conference, but the defendant also held a gathering at her house, and Chad Daybell was present. You will hear how shortly after, the defendant, with the help of Chad Daybell, began telling people and purporting religious beliefs and teaching people about a rating system of light and dark. The defendant told others
He made his own rating system of light and dark. All very complex kind of levels, But generally it's like 1 dark, 2 dark, 3 dark. Ooh, level 3 dark. You're a zombie, need to be killed. That type of thing. I'm oversimplifying what crap he made up. But yes, he felt that he's speaking directly for God, that the 144,000 disciples from the Bible, the second coming of Christ, it's going to be in Rexburg, Idaho. That's why he lived there, and he's the one that's going to bring it in. And then him and his goddess are going to live in a castle, and everyone else is going to live in tents. Like, oh my word. He also communicated with her through a portal in the closet. What? A lot of what in this case.
that with the help of Chad, she could rate people as light or dark. And pretty soon this theory evolved and these teachings evolved. And they started to say, well, if somebody's dark, an evil spirit or an evil entity can come in, and they can push the real person out and take over the body. And the defendant and Chad Daybell talked about how you would get rid of these evil spirits. So the first thing they did was the defendant would lead castings. And you'll hear the castings described a little different by different witnesses, but with the idea being that there was prayer and energy work. They wouldn't have to be near the person.
Prayer and energy work. So this is again a picture of the prosecutor, Lindsey Blake, who's talking. And we heard Melanie Gibb and Zulema Pastenes describe this prayer and energy work, especially Melanie. Wow. Just casting demons out left and right and not being successful. So it's kind of like The Exorcist meets the Apocalypse zombies, Doomsday, I don't know, all kinds, And they were saying that Tammy, she had a demon that possessed her, Viola. And that Charles Vallow, his demon was called Ned. I think it was Ned Schneider, wasn't it? Ned. And then eventually when they cast Ned out, the demon, then another demon entered his body. So then he absolutely had to be killed. And then Alex Cox was like the hitman for Lori, really. And he's like, I'll do it. It's just, whew. Wow.
Person that they were casting on, but they would get together and pray or do energy work to get rid of this evil spirit. You will also hear that these castings, time and time again, didn't work. But you'll hear that these teachings evolved. And they evolved to, well, a person could be so dark or a spirit could be so evil that the person actually becomes a zombie. You can't cast a zombie out. But a common theme was the body had to be destroyed.
Literally, you guys, destroyed. They're like, the body has to be destroyed, dismembered, and everything.
The defendant and Chad used their self-proclaimed religious beliefs and teachings to justify their actions to others. Their actions from an affair to murder. This was especially true with regards to the defendant's brother, Alex Cox. You will hear how Alex and the defendant had an extremely close relationship. Alex would do anything for Lori. And you'll hear how when Alex would do anything
on the left-hand side is Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's brother. He would do anything for Lori, as they just described. He was like their fall guy, their hitman. On the right, pictures again of Tylee and JJ, Lori's children, who were murdered.
For Lori, when she uprooted her life in Arizona on or about September 1st of 2019 and moved up to Idaho and moved to Rexburg to be closer to Chad, Alex quit his job and moved up to Rexburg with her. If Chad and Lori asked it, Alex did it. You will also hear how Alex Cox was taught by both the defendant and Chad Daybell that his purpose in this probation or this life or this creation, whichever term they use, was to protect Lori. He was a warrior and he was here to protect Lori.
Yes. Spiritual warrior, here to protect Lori. Wow. And someone was asking, did Lori and Chad plead not guilty by reason of insanity? No. They pleaded not guilty, but not by reason of insanity. The reference that someone made earlier to the insanity one was Letecia, just saying that these two cases are so crazy. Yes. Violet Gracie, thank you so much for your sticker. Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate it. Yeah, C. Jules says, how did they convince people of this nonsense? They had a bit of a following. Friends. Oh man. I don't know though. It's really, I mean, maybe because it was so detailed. Maybe Chad was in some way convincing him in his books, and who knows.
When the defendant would talk about people being light and dark, she talked about her own daughter, Tylee, being dark. She told people this, and there's
Sorry, don't know what's getting stuck like that. Hold on.
messages that she sent regarding this. But what you won't hear is anything about the defendant doing anything when Tylee went missing. There were no known actions taken by the defendant. No report to law enforcement. No missing person posters. No inquiries. Similarly with JJ, little 7-year-old boy. The defendant said he was dark. He was possessed. She told people this. There's messages about it. But again, what you won't hear is that when JJ went missing, that the defendant did anything. There are no known actions by the defendant to find JJ. No report to law enforcement. No missing person posters. No inquiries. You will hear how she described JJ's behaviors to others in an attempt to get them to agree that he must not be JJ anymore, that an evil spirit must have taken over his body. And you will hear how she was very convincing. You'll hear from witnesses how they believed what Lori told them. She was likable, energetic, and they believed her. They wanted to believe her. They wanted to follow Lori. They wanted what she was saying to be true. You will also hear how she told a friend of hers named April Raymond, who's another woman that you will hear from, that when she got divorced, that JJ would need to go live with Charles, his father, and that Charles would have to figure out what to do with him. And part of why she talked about this.
Just going to pause for a second. And yeah, thanks for reminding me. There's no insanity defense in Idaho. And the keyboard is part of the court audio. And Nate Eaton addressed that after opening statements, saying that they were saying, could the media and everyone typing, I think it's the court reporter typing like that. But the media was also like, because this is not televised. So everybody's just typing, tweeting, just capturing all the information as fast as they can. So that's what that is. It's the court audio, okay, with the keyboards going.
Was that the defendant was also telling people that she was here on a mission. She was here on a religious mission to gather the 144,000. So she needed to spend her time and energy there. So JJ could go live with Charles because she had other things to do. She had more important things to do than care for her child.
This is hubby number 4, Charles Vallow, who was shot by Alex Cox. And Alex Cox said it was self-defense. I don't know how you got away with that, because later they proved that Charles was shot and already lying down when he was shot again from above by Alex. Yes.
She expressed to people that what she did here on Earth no longer counted for her. You'll hear how she'd hit her hand. Doesn't count for me. Doesn't count for me. She explained this to others by telling them that she was a translated being, and you'll hear more about that and what they taught with regards to that. But she convinced others that they were also in the translation process. Again, she's very convincing. People wanted to believe her. People trusted her. But what it really was she and Chad using their proposed religious beliefs and teaching to manipulate those around them into not questioning their actions and what they were.
And there's Lori Vallow. You see what I mean? With the hair and the attempted makeup from jail and her attorneys, Jim Archibald, and let's just see quickly. So John Thomas on the left and Jim Archibald on the right. And it's going to be Jim Archibald that makes the opening statements after the prosecutor, Lindsey Blake, finishes her statements.
Doing. Their actions did not always comport with their teachings, and so you'll hear how those teachings evolved. They changed over time to justify or to support the actions of the defendant and Chad Daybell. You will hear how the defendant told others, because she was translated, she didn't have to repent. Again, doesn't count for me. You'll also hear how when she and Alex first moved here, Alex was setting the Wi-Fi password. He tells Lori in a message, "I set the password. Too many kids." Lori's short response, "Funny." That's before the kids went missing when they moved here. In the month or so after her children were last seen, what you will hear is the defendant went on several trips. She went on a trip to Arizona, and that trip was around October 9th of 2019. And that's a date that you will hear about. The defendant went to Arizona to visit her niece, Melanie Boudreau, also known as Melanie Pulowski, another individual that you will hear more about and you will hear from during this trial. While she was down visiting her niece,
Melanie Pulowski on the left, Brandon Boudreau on the right. He was also already on the witness stand.
Zulema Pastenes came over. And Lori led a casting on Tammy.
Zulema Pastenes was Alex Cox's wife.
Meanwhile, back in Idaho, what you will hear is on October 9th of 2019, that same day, Tammy came home from work, parked her car, went to get...
This is a picture of Alex Cox and Zulema Pastenes. Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it. So there you can see those pictures as well. Thank you so much, Katie Lynn. Thank you so much for bringing us all this content, G. You get me through my workday as I deliver the mail. Very nice.
Things out of the back and came face to face with a masked man holding a gun and pointing at her. You will hear how Tammy heard a couple pops and the gunman ran off. What you will also hear is that later a phone call was overheard between Lori and an unknown individual. Lori was mad.
Tammy Daybell on the left, Chad Daybell on the right, together for 25 years. College sweetheart. And then when you meet Lori, you just decide, yeah, no, she's got to go. What?
Mad. On October 9th of 2019, she was mad. And she made a statement along the lines of, "He can't do anything right." What we also know is that there were some phone calls that night between she and at least Chad Daybell. Not long after that trip to Arizona, you will hear how Lori then traveled to Missouri with her niece, Melanie. And while in Missouri, they visited some sites, and then they met up with an individual named Audrey Bartario, another woman that you will hear more about and you will hear from during this trial. And while they were there in Missouri...
I haven't heard much about Audrey before, so that's going to be interesting. Above me here is Tammy Daybell, JJ, and Tylee. So these are the three victims, and that is what Lori is on trial for now, for their deaths.
Lori led another casting on Tammy. By this time, you'll hear that the defendant and Chad had determined Tammy was dark. Tammy was possessed. She was possessed by an evil spirit named Viola. Shortly after the trip to Missouri, you will hear how how Lori then traveled to Hawaii. She traveled to Hawaii again with her niece Melanie, and Audrey joined them while they were there. And Lori was actually in Hawaii at the time of Tammy's death on or about October 19th of 2019. What you won't hear with any of these trips that the defendant went on, you won't hear about JJ or Tylee because they weren't with her. They weren't with her when she went to Arizona. They weren't with her when she went to Missouri, and they were not with her when she went to Hawaii. But what you will hear about is how the defendant was still spending their money. She was also sending her other son, Colby, money using Tylee's phone. So Tylee's phone was with her, but Tylee wasn't. You will hear how when she was in Hawaii, she was in constant or consistent contact with Chad. You'll hear how just after Tammy died, she hurried back to Idaho. And just after returning to Idaho, you will hear how the defendant began to insert herself into Chad Daybell's life. It was as if Tammy never existed. The defendant met his kids, came to his house, and Chad started to introduce her to some of his friends. And you will hear how Chad introduced her to some of his neighbors a little over a week after Tammy's passing. And you'll hear from those neighbors, those friends of Chad's. And you will hear how when they were introduced to Lori for the first time, she and Chad couldn't keep their hands off each other. Tammy hasn't been dead that long. They talk about plans to get married. But maybe most interestingly, Chad Daybell makes a statement when Lori's asked about kids, that she had a young daughter that had recently died. Lori says nothing about JJ. No mention of a young son. No correcting Chad on the whereabouts or if her daughter was alive or not. Just some indication about, well, I've got some stepkids. Not long after that meeting, the defendant was in Hawaii on a beach marrying Chad Daybell. They got married in Hawaii on November 5th of 2019. You will hear how the defendant had actually begun looking for malachite wedding rings as early as May of 2019. You will hear how the malachite stone was important to them. What you will also hear is on their wedding day, they exchanged malachite rings. And in May of 2019, when the defendant was looking for those rings, both of their spouses were alive and well. You will hear also how Chad Daybell began checking into adding the defendant to his to his health insurance policy. And when he went to fill out that application, you will hear how he said, no minor children. There's no minors that need to be added to this policy, just the defendant.
Like, damn. From May of 2019 already. They're looking at malachite rings. He's adding Lori to his health insurance policy, saying, nope, no minor children at all. Wow.
You'll hear how similarly he was looking for a rental property for them in Hawaii. And on that application, same thing. No minor children. Just Chad and Lori. Just Chad and the defendant. Just the way they wanted it. On November 26th of 2019, law enforcement showed up at the apartments located at 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, Idaho. They were looking for JJ. It was still unknown that Tylee was missing at this point. Chad Daybell was there with Alex Cox, and law enforcement made contact with them. Finally, later that same day, they were able to contact the defendant regarding the whereabouts of JJ. The defendant was less than forthcoming with law enforcement at that time. She told law enforcement that JJ was with her friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona. The problem with this?
This is a picture again of the prosecutor, Lindsey Blake.
She'd told Melanie JJ was with Kay Woodcock, his grandmother. Problem with that? Kay Woodcock is the one that had reported JJ missing to law enforcement. So where was JJ? And where was Tylee for that matter? The defendant did not cooperate in locating them. Instead, when law enforcement returned, she'd cleared out her apartment and moved to Hawaii with Chad, her new husband.
Oh, yes. She's like clean slate, new life, no kids. Chad's wife gone. Great stuff. Let's go to Hawaii. My gosh. And someone, Nikki, saying, when is Chad's trial? We're not sure. It's going to be rescheduled. But if we guess, it's probably next year. Probably, I don't know. Maybe it's still this year, but probably next year if we know how these legal proceedings go.
While Chad and Lori were starting their new life together in Hawaii, law enforcement had begun a massive search for JJ and Tylee. It became a nationwide search for those children. As they were searching for the children and beginning their investigation, they talked to Melanie Gibb because Lori had said that JJ was with Melanie. Melanie had been asked to not talk to law enforcement by Chad. She'd been asked to tell law enforcement JJ was with her by Lori, even so far as Lori saying, snap a picture of some kids. Send it to law enforcement, basically. Melanie Gibb wasn't sure what to do, but eventually she came forward to law enforcement and said, JJ was never with me. Never had him. Don't know where he is. Because of everything that had gone on, Melanie...
Just going to pause for a second. Black Widow said, is it the prosecutors whose dad died and she's showing up dedicated to justice? I'm not too sure. There's Rob Wood and Lindsey Blake. But one of the prosecutor's close family members has passed away, so there's no court tomorrow. They ended early on Wednesday, and then they carried on again Thursday, Friday. There's no court for Lori Vallow's trial tomorrow. They resume on Tuesday, from my understanding. Barbara, thank you so much. You say, I don't know how people get so far off the tracks. It's like the most toxic relationship you've ever heard of. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, right?
Gibb on December 8th of 2019 decides to place a phone call to Chad and the defendant. She wants to know, where's JJ? And why did you ask me to tell law enforcement he was with me?
A lot of you asking about Chad's kids. They're all grown up. You know, he was with Tammy Daybell for, I think it was 25 years. They, though, believe that he's innocent, that Chad, their dad, is innocent in all of this. So I'm not sure where they all are now, but they're all grown up.
What's going on? She recorded that conversation. And what we know from that conversation and what you will hear is the defendant refused to disclose where JJ was, but claimed he was happy. Claimed and ultimately ended up saying she knew exactly where JJ was. I remind you, JJ was last seen on September 22nd of 2019. This is December 8th of 2019. And I'll remind you how JJ was found. And yet the defendant's statement to Melanie Gibb was, I know exactly where he is. When confronted about Tammy's death, the defendant indicated they did what they had to do. Now remember, Chad and Lori.
Damn. They did what they had to do. So on the left here is Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife, who was asphyxiated or died from asphyxiation. On the right-hand side, Lori Vallow.
Had determined Tammy was dark. And if someone's dark and castings don't work, the body has to be destroyed. They did what they had to do. The defendant and Chad did what they had to do to remove any and every obstacle that was in their way of getting exactly what they wanted. On December 11th of 2019, Tammy was removed from her resting place to be examined. And it was determined by the Office of the Utah Medical Examiner that Tammy died at the hands of another and that the cause of her death was asphyxiation. You will hear how around the time of Tammy's exhumation, Alex Cox made a statement along the lines of, "I hope I'm not their fall guy."
And that's huge because he was their fall guy. He would do anything for Lori's brother, Alex Cox. And then he makes a statement saying, I hope I'm not their fall guy. He was. And then he just dropped dead. 18 days after Chad Daybell gave him a blessing to go into the next realm, a terrestrial realm, and go meet with his other deceased sister, like a sister that died many years ago, right? You're going to meet with her. You're going to glow. You're going to meet the Savior himself. This is what Chad, he prayed over him. And we listened to that 2 days ago. So go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I'll make sure to link it in the description box as well. But it is on the playlist for this case. Wow. To hear that, it sounds very premeditated. How Chad was praying over him and saying what he's going to do, what he's going to do in his next life. And then just 18 days later, he drops dead. Yeah. Lola Bean says he's still their fall guy. Mm-hmm.
What exactly Alex meant by this or what he knew, we may never know, because Alex Cox died the next day on December 12th of 2019. What we do know, though, is there were communications between Alex Cox, the defendant, and Chad Daybell. We know in those conversations there was discussions of people being light and dark, and we know the location of Alex's phone and Chad's phone on certain dates and times. We know that on October 9th of 2019, the day Tammy was confronted by a masked gunman, that Alex Cox's phone had been in the area earlier in the day, driving by where the Daybell residence is located.
So, we're not 100% sure yet, I'll say, who murdered Tammy Daybell. But we know that Alex was only 2.5 miles away or so from Chad Daybell's residence at the time. So there's that. We heard that Lori was in Hawaii at the time. And it's believed that it was Alex that murdered the children for Lori. So him saying, I hope I'm not the fall guy, you literally are. They used you as a hitman, basically. Floating the river, thank you so much. I think or hope that statement Lori made will take her down. I know exactly where they are. Yep, and she was like, they're happy. They're fine. I know exactly where they are. And you know where they were? Buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. Scary.
The only person Alex Cox knew in the Salem area was Chad Daybell. We know that on September 9th of 2019, the morning after the last day Tylee is seen, we know Alex Cox's phone is in Chad Daybell's backyard on his property close to where Tylee's remains are found. We also know around that same time, Chad Daybell's phone is there on his property close to where Tylee.
And then we know he texted his wife and be like, damn, raccoon. I had to shoot that raccoon and bury it. What? Wow. But so Lori, Chad, and Alex, they worked very closely together. So while Lori didn't, by what we know, physically commit any of the murders, she's kind of the brains behind it all, pulling everyone's strings.
His body is found. We also know from other witnesses that Alex Cox would do whatever the defendant and Chad asked him to do. He was loyal to them to a fault. You have already heard from the state that we have the burden in this case, But I want to reiterate that we as the state have the burden to prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. You have heard that term, and you will hear it again, reasonable doubt. The court is the judge of the law, and the judge will give you the definition of the law. And the judge will specifically provide a definition of reasonable doubt, and you follow his definition. But I will say reasonable doubt is commonly defined as a doubt that would cause a reasonable person to hesitate to act. And I would emphasize reasonable. The defendant is charged with multiple crimes, and you just heard him in the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft in relation to the death of Tylee Ryan, her daughter.
Sam Panther says, what's with the zombie stuff? I know, right? It's all in Chad's head. And then Laurie's. He made up this whole chart of light and dark, and the darker you are according to his charts, and that would really be someone who's just in his way. But anyway, if someone's dark in his mind and Laurie's mind, yeah, they're zombies and they must be destroyed. There's no way to save them after that. What?
First-degree murder in relation to the death of Tylee Ryan, her daughter. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft in relation to J.J. Vallow, her son. First-degree murder in relation to J.J. Vallow, her son. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in relation to Tammy Daybell. And grand theft for the taking of the Social Security monies. Again, the judge will advise you on the law, but keep in mind that when we talk about the term conspiracy, it is two or more persons combining or conspiring, so essentially a meeting of the minds to commit some crime. And then one of those actors, just one, has to do an overt act in furtherance of that conspiracy. Only
in this case, the Laurie Vallow trial, there's no court tomorrow, but we will have a full court day tomorrow for Letecia Stauch's trial. So make sure that you join us for that.
one person has to do it, and there only has to be one overt act. What that means is the defendant doesn't have to be the one that physically ended anyone's life for her to be guilty of conspiracy. If you determine that there was a meeting of the minds and one actor did one overt act in furtherance of that. Similarly, in the state of Idaho, Idaho law allows for someone to be charged as a principal. When someone is charged as a principal to a crime, it can include them directly committing the act, aiding and abetting in its commission, or it can include them having advised and encouraged its commission, or commanding or coercing another to commit the crime. So similarly, when you're hearing about the first-degree murder, the defendant did not have to physically end someone's life for her to be guilty.
Anina says, how many followers did they have? I'm not too sure, but they say it wasn't a big following. That's all I've ever read. I didn't see a number, but not very many.
First-degree murder is deliberate, willful, and premeditated actions causing someone to die. Remind you, and circling back, when Tylee was found, as we talked about, all that was found was charred remains. Tylee's hands are gone. When JJ was found, his hands were bound and duct taped in front of his body. When Tammy was found, those hands, she was described as a computer whiz, never going to do anything on a computer again. And the defendant and Chad Daybell getting married on a beach in Hawaii, starting their life together, all obstacles gone. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I thank you for being here today and your willingness to serve on the jury. We recognize that you do have a task here, and you are the judge of facts, and I would let you know that that is the most important job in this courtroom. This is set to be a long trial. and you're going to sit through a lot of evidence and a lot of testimony. What we ask you to do is be attentive to the testimony and evidence presented. Apply your common sense and reasonableness in weighing the evidence. Give every piece of evidence and testimony the weight you think it is due. Hold us to our burden, and we feel that if you apply your reason and common sense, I'm confident that you will return a verdict of guilty in this case. Thank you.
Okay, before we start with the defense's opening statements, let me quickly show you something. Thank you so much, Deborah, and welcome to membership. Heidi, not Heidi. I just want to show you this little article here where they say Lori Vallow Daybell murder trial stops early Wednesday, will not be held on Monday. So in case you didn't know, let me just remove this banner quickly. Okay, so they say, Boise, at the start of Wednesday's Lori Vallow Daybell trial, the judge granted a request from prosecutors to end early for the day. The day's testimony ended about 2 hours later at 10:41 a.m. Very short day in court last week, Wednesday. Yes, indeed, because Lori, she couldn't handle the graphic details of how her children were found, which is quite interesting because so far she's been very distant from it all, just smiling and doing her thing. I think it really hit her that day. IMO, Charles Manson vibes going on here with this situation, right? Thank you so much for your sticker. Really appreciate that. So they say, let me just zoom in for you. Okay. SW4x4 Explorer says if Lori is guilty in Idaho, she still will be tried in Arizona for the ex's death. I live nearby and want to attend. I believe so, yes. That is what I've heard. That will be a separate trial for Charles Vallow's death. So that's interesting as well. Yep. So they say there has been a death in the family of one of the prosecutor's lead attorneys. The court and defense have been gracious in allowing the prosecution to adjust to this personal situation, a statement from the prosecutor said. Lori Vallow Daybell and her husband Chad Daybell are charged with multiple counts of conspiracy, murder, and grand theft in the deaths of her two children, Joshua J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. Lori Daybell also faces charges in the death of Chad Daybell's previous wife, Tammy Daybell. Lori Daybell was ordered to remain in court while graphic testimony and photos of the discovery of her children's bodies were presented to the jury on Tuesday. The defense argued she should be excused out of concerns for her mental health, but the judge denied the request, requiring that she stay in court to preserve due process in the case, which I loved hearing that. Rexburg Police Detective Ray Hermosillo then described the excavation of the bodies of the children, and prosecutors showed images taken from the Ada County Coroner's Office taken in June of 2020 that showed 7-year-old JJ's decomposing body. That must have been so hard for the court, not for Lori. You know what I mean? Sam Panther, thank you so much. You say, just remember to have a break from evil. Been to the zoo today. Oh, wow. Nice. Celebrated my granddaughter's first birthday. Wonderful. I hope you had a great day. Investigators also described serving a search warrant on Lori Daybell's townhome in Rexburg, where they found silencers, a mask, several guns, and camouflage suits, as well as personal protective equipment often used in cleaning up hazardous materials. So you can see Nate Eaton is tweeting out all these pictures and everything, which is really great to see from the court as well, although I think they're making her look too pretty on the pictures. Make it accurate. On Wednesday, Hermosillo's testimony continued. He spoke about sifting through dirt at the fire pit and finding teeth, charred bone, and little burnt pieces of flesh and dropping the bodies of Tylee and JJ at the coroner's office. The detective said that they photographed weapons in the home because they were aware of attempted homicides connected to the Daybells at the time. Madison County Sheriff's Lieutenant Jared Wilmore testified about a call between Daybell and her husband on June 9th, 2020, as officers were searching their home with a warrant. What do you want me to do? Pray? Yeah, pray, the Daybell said in a recording played for the jury. Lieutenant Joe Powell spoke about Tammy Daybell's health, saying investigators exhumed her body because she'd been healthy for her age and her husband was with another woman so quickly after her death. On Monday, prosecutors said publicly for the first time that Tammy Daybell died from asphyxiation at the hands of another person. Yes, Magnetic Janet says Nate does an incredible job. And East Idaho News, oh my word, you guys, it's like heaven. They've got everything, like bullet points everywhere. It's bullet point paradise, okay? Especially on this case, like minute by minute. They've got the whole Lori Vallow digest and everything there. So it's really great. Okay, so let's continue on now. We're going to hear the prosecutor. Oh, sorry. We just heard the prosecutor's opening statements. Now we're going to hear the defense's opening statements. It's shorter than the prosecutor's one. It's about 20 minutes, I think it is. And this is Jim Archibald.
Like the state of Idaho, I also thank you for your service. This is a difficult case, a case we have not been able to settle without you. That's why you've been called here to help us.
Okay, let me just quickly pause this as I make a banner for you, and I want to just tell you who they all are on screen here. So on the left-hand side is Jim Archibald. In the middle is, of course, Lori Vallow, and on the right-hand side is John Thomas. Criminal defense attorneys, public defenders, I believe court-appointed for Lori Vallow. Lori Vallow.
Settle this case. If the court will allow a brief introduction, I know a lot about you with your 12-page or 20-page questionnaires. So I'd like to just make a brief introduction of the defense. I've been an attorney since 1991. I've been both a private attorney and a public defender. And in small county Idaho, there's a lot of us lawyers who do both public defense work and private work. And so over the past 32 years, I've done a bit of both. I've been assigned to...
This is him speaking, Jim Archibald, the defense attorney.
27 murder cases over the course of my career, and they're difficult. They're difficult cases. I was assigned to this case. I'm paid by the taxpayers, and so thank you for paying your taxes.
I mean, he sounds better than Letecia's defense attorney, right? He's explaining, yes, I know, it's terrible, defending someone like this, but he's doing a good job at it. Where the Wind Blows says, are they death penalty lawyers? I think they are because they were assigned, but death penalty is off the table for Lori Vallow. Not for Chad, though.
I've had a general practice where I do a little bit of everything, and then I get about one of these difficult cases a year assigned to me, and we do what we can. What does a defense lawyer do? We make sure that our clients' constitutional rights are protected. We make sure that the government does its job. We make sure that proof beyond a reasonable doubt is in place before there's a decision. So with these difficult cases, we resolve 99% of our cases. Less than 1% of cases actually make it to trial. And so I believe the state and the defense, we generally do a good job of resolving our disputes. And sometimes when we can't, then we call on you.
Yes, Kathleen says, okay, I didn't choose to be here, let's be clear. But compared to, Letecia's defense attorney, I think he did a better job, even though he sounds, just as someone described, defeated and just like, oh man, this is a difficult case. Yes, I have to defend this one. I mean, Woodcock was like, I'm not going to go over it again. We've already seen those. It was quite something, huh? The whole dramatics of walking to the back of the courtroom and all that. This is pretty good.
To resolve it for us. I'm being assisted in this case by John Thomas. He's been an attorney since 1999. He has also both experience in private law firms and public defenders' offices, where he's handled many serious cases. He's received many accolades for his lawyering, and I appreciate him helping me. I also am being assisted by Brandon Hobbs. You've probably seen him, and he's an investigator, and so he's helped us investigate this case. Being a defense lawyer isn't always a popular job.
Hmm. So here's some sketches as well from inside the court, because this trial is not televised. So yeah, all we get is really sketches and audio. That's what we get from this trial.
I appreciate you being respectful towards me, and I'll do the same. I'll be respectful towards you. Some 8 years ago, my law office got bombed, and so some people are really upset by what I do for a living, and so I appreciate you and your ability to decide the facts of this case without emotion overriding your decision. So this case is about Lori Vallow Daybell. The prosecutor has just told you what the government hopes to prove throughout the next month. So what's this story about from our defense perspective, and how does this story include you? So the evidence will show that Lori was born and raised in California. She's lived in California, Texas, Arizona, and Hawaii. She lived in Idaho for less than a month before the event of what you're here to decide. She's one of 6 children. Her parents are still alive. They're retired. She's had an older sister and a brother die, and she also has a sister and a brother still living. She believes in life after death, and she believes she will see her deceased family, including her children, again. She's a beautician by trade. She's worked hard for years in that profession. She's a mother of 3, stepmother of 2, and is now a grandmother of 2 children. The evidence will show that people were attracted to her, as the state has told you. They've been attracted to her pretty.
When I watched that for the first time, or heard it for the first time myself, I'm like, wait, what? I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Madagascar. It's an animation, but it's like, I don't know, which of you is attracted to me? And he was like, well, many people were attracted to her. I'm like, what? Anyway, carrying on. This is Charles Vallow on the left, Colby Ryan in the middle, her son from hubby number 3, and Lori Vallow on the right.
Smile, her vivacious personality, her fun-loving, happy-go-lucky personality. People wanted to be around her. Her oldest son is Colby Ryan. He was born in 1996 in Texas. He's a handsome young man. He currently lives in Arizona. He has 2 children of his own, making Lori a grandma. Her old.
Oh, Grandma Lori. He also last year had some SA charges that his wife filed. I believe they were separated. But then he got released on bail, I think it was. Well, the charges were dropped. I can't remember. But he had some SA charges as well.
His daughter, Tylee Ryan, was born in 2002 in Texas. She was a ray of sunshine. She had health problems, pancreatitis, painful and debilitating disease, but Tylee did the best she could. Her marriage to Joe Ryan ended, and a painful, long, drawn-out custody battle ensued, and it was hard on all of them. The evidence will show that her next husband, Charles Vallow, was smitten with her, and she with him. He had 2 kids, she had 2 kids, and the blended family lasted over a decade. Lori was such a good, responsible mother.
Oh boy. I mean, he's got to say it. He's got to say all these things. It's his job. So on the left-hand side, Jim Archibald, who's talking now, Lori Vallow in the middle, and John Thomas on the right-hand side, the other defense attorney.
To her 2 children, that her husband's sister, Kay Woodcock, wanted her to adopt a special needs toddler newborn. Kay Woodcock was the grandma to a child born in Louisiana in 2012. A child with special needs. The child's parents couldn't take care of him because of their own personal problems. apparently Kay Woodcock.
Okay, on the left-hand side, Larry Woodcock. On the right-hand side, Kay Woodcock. Kay Woodcock, sister of Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow's fourth husband. Lori Vallow Daybell. It's her fourth husband, Charles, that was shot by her brother, Alex Cox. Kay has a brother who had a child, JJ, and that brother couldn't look after JJ. So Larry and Kay looked after JJ for a while, and then Charles and Lori adopted JJ. Tylee Ryan is from Lori Vallow's third marriage to Joe Ryan. He also died, by the way, but I think they said that was from a heart attack. There's a lot. This is a lot. How am I doing? All from memory now. Are we following the mind map? So there was also, before this trial started, a whole scene because Lori said that Larry and Kay are not allowed to be in court. They're not victims. They're not the real grandparents of JJ. They can't be there. But I believe they can. Is it Kay's son? Kay's, what did I say, brother? Kay's son. Thank you. So I believe they can now be in court. Yes, if you know more, if you know lots, correct me if I get it wrong. Kay's son. Okay. It's a whole thing. We got to follow the the visuals are better. But yeah, Stefan's like taking notes. Okay, so that's who we have on screen here. Larry and Kay Woodcock. And they were also at the opening statements outside of the court, talking to Nate Eaton, which was great to see as well.
Couldn't take care of him either. So she asked her brother, Charles, and his wife, Lori, if they would adopt him, and they agreed. So the child born in Louisiana, the struggling parents, was adopted by Charles and Lori Vallow in 2014, and he became known as J.J. Vallow, Lori's third child. The evidence will show.
So there's Colby, Lori's children were Colby, then Tylee, and then she adopted JJ. And Charles Vallow and Lori were looking after the kids.
Show that Lori was a dutiful wife to Charles Vallow. They both worked hard, he at the office and she at home. She was a kind and loving mother to her children. The evidence will show she had a particular interest in religion in the end of times.
This is Charles Vallow, hubby number 4, who was shot by Lori's brother Alex Cox.
You will recognize the quote-unquote end of times as something spoken of in the Holy Bible, the New Testament. Most of you will understand when I say that. Some people could care less about biblical prophecies. Some people care a lot about it. Thankfully, in this country, we get to worship how we choose. The evidence will show that once Lori and her friends met Chad Daybell, an author on religious subjects, her beliefs began to morph and to change. And that's where you come into this story, because the stories diverge. So we haven't been able to agree on what happened, and we need you to decide it. So what happened? How did these children die? Who was involved? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Why? Why did it happen? The judge has read to you the allegations, the charges. And so they were read to you 2 weeks ago when you showed up to fill out your questionnaire. They were read again today. And I'm going to read parts of them again because I think it's important to see what she's charged with. You don't have to write these down, by the way. The jury instructions will be with you in the jury room. Some of you are really good note takers, and some of you will let others take notes. But you don't need to memorize what I'm telling you, because these will be printed out and handed to you in the jury room. So the charge of conspiracy: Chad, Lori, Alex, deceased. Other co-conspirators, both known and unknown. So Chad Daybell is not on trial here. Alex Cox is not on trial here. He's deceased. Other co-conspirators, I don't know much about that, both known and unknown. So again, your focus will be on the actions of Lori, not on Chad, not on Alex, not on co-conspirators, both known and unknown. So that's the conspiracy. I think first-degree murder, the allegations contained in the charge that the judge read to you, was Lori Vallow concerned in the commission of first-degree murder? Did she aid and abet? Did she assist somehow? Or the language of the charge says, or not being present. Did she advise and encourage it to happen? Or by command compelled another? So this charge is, did she kill? Or did she assist? Or,
Man, his voice makes us all just a little bit sleepy, right? Black Widow says, I feel like we're all living together at this point. Cooking, showering, gardening, you're all here. We're all together all the time, right? Amanda says, how long is her trial supposed to last? 8 weeks. Her trial is supposed to last 8 weeks. They said it could be 10, but 8. So there should still be 6 weeks to go. And Letecia Stauch as well, 6 to 8 weeks. So these two trials might finish at the same time.
did she encourage? Or did she command? So in other words, this charge is saying they're not sure what happened, but yet they want you to be sure. The same with count 3 and count 4 with JJ. Count 5 with Tammy. Did she combine or conspire to commit murder? Did she do the murder? Or did she talk about it? Or did she do something about it? Or did she do an act in furtherance of it? So that's the challenge here for you, is you're going to be given all these alternatives, and you're going to have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. I didn't make up the definition for reasonable doubt, neither did the judge, neither did the prosecutors.
We've only got 6 minutes left of the defense's opening statements. Amen, Mom, happy birthday to you, and thank you so much for the coffees that you sent as well.
But that's our law. He read it to you 2 weeks ago and again this morning, and here it is. Under our law and system of justice, every defendant is presumed to be innocent. This means 2 things. First, the state has the burden of proving the defendant guilty. The state has that burden throughout the trial. The defendant is never required to prove her innocence, nor does the defendant ever have to produce any evidence at all. The state must prove the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is not mere possible or imaginary doubt. It is a doubt based on reason and common sense. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence, or from lack of evidence. So if you have a lack of evidence and that's reasonable to you, you're our reasonable people here for the next month. That's a reasonable doubt. If after considering all the evidence or the lack of evidence, you have a reasonable doubt about Lori's guilt, you must find her not guilty.
The stenographer is like still typing.
I'm sorry, all these papers in here, I lost my way. So there's something called an alibi that was filed as part of this response, part of these allegations. So here's the alibi that was filed on Lori's behalf. Lori Vallow was in her own apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, when J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan died in the apartment of Alex Cox in Rexburg, Idaho. Lori was with Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, and or Chad Daybell. And Lori was in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell died at the home of Chad Daybell in Salem, Idaho. Lori was with Melanie Bedreau and or Audrey Baratario in Hawaii. So that's the alibi filed in this case. And a lot of jurors were excused in this case because of pretrial publicity. We asked you a lot of questions about that, what you knew, what you heard, what if you can set it aside. And so far, still no evidence has been presented to you. So my client is still presumed innocent. And the publicity that has tainted so many people throughout the county, through the state, through the nation, that's not evidence. And so I appreciate all of you stating that anything that you may have heard, a lot of you didn't hear anything, so thank you. But for those of you who did hear something, you can set that aside and start this trial with Lori with a clean slate. You're here to focus on what she did, not on what Chad Daybell did or what Alex Cox did. You're here to determine if there even was a conspiracy. Cases, again, can be solved with evidence. They can be solved with lack of evidence. And when there's lack of evidence, the law calls it not guilty. You said you would be fair and impartial. You said you would have an open mind to not judge her until you heard all the evidence in this courtroom. You said you would do your duty, and I believe you. If what the state has alleged here cannot be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, you said you would find her not guilty. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, so we've seen the opening statements now together. If you watched it before, elsewhere, thank you for watching it again here with all of us. Let me just quickly do this. Just want to show you something here. Someone was asking why no cameras in the courtroom. I mean, I wonder with Brian Koberger's case if there's also going to be this type of a motion filed. Will there be cameras or audio only or none or what? So this was published on January 25th, 2023 on East Idaho News. Family members of J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell are asking a judge to reconsider allowing cameras in the upcoming trial of Chad and Lori Daybell. Well, since then, their trials have been severed. So it's now Lori Vallow Daybell's trial. The Daybells are pleaded not guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. Their trial, expected to last up to 10 weeks, is scheduled to begin in Ada County on April 3rd. Cameras were allowed in public court hearings since Lori Daybell's arrest in February of 2020, but last fall, her attorneys, Jim Archibald, who we just heard from, and John Thomas filed a motion asking District Judge Stephen Boyce to remove still and video cameras for the courtroom. Boyce granted the motion and said the ban applied to all future hearings, including the trial. The decision doesn't sit well with the family members EastIdahoNews.com has spoken to. This is unfair. I have total respect for the judge. I admire him so far for how he's run his court, but I think this was an ill-advised decision. Larry Woodcock, J.J. Vallow's grandfather, tells East Idaho News, I can understand keeping the cameras out in pretrial hearings, but when that trial starts and those jurors are picked, it's time for the public and the families to be able to see that. Judges in Idaho have full discretion when it comes to audio and video coverage in their courtrooms. They can revoke cameras at any time, and their decisions are not appealable. Boyce wrote in his September ruling that he found no misconduct from the media in hearings when cameras were allowed, but expressed concerns about pre-trial publicity. That's one of the reasons that he moved the trial to Ada County. This is Judge Stephen Boyce in this trial. Fremont and Madison County residents who are paying for a case that will likely end up costing millions will be unable to view or listen to the proceedings unless they go to Boise. Travel costs and the long duration of the trial are big concerns for family members of the victims who believe cameras could alleviate those problems. Not allowing cameras in the courtroom is an egregious disservice to family members who can't carve out 2.5 months of their lives to attend the trial. Annie Cushing, Tylee's aunt, tells East Idaho News. We deserve to be able to watch the legal system finally hold Lori and Chad's feet to the flames for their callous disregard for these victims' lives. I would respectfully ask Judge Boyce to please reconsider his decision on this matter. Which he did not. Yes. And Kathleen, yes. Chad was a gravedigger. Yep, so there's that. Tammy Daybell's family says it's physically and financially unrealistic for Ron and Phyllis Douglas, Tammy's elderly parents, to leave their Springville, Utah home for several weeks and stay in Boise. The Douglases and Tammy's siblings have asked prosecutors for video access to the trial. Prosecuting attorneys Rob Wood and Lindsey Blake have argued against cameras as well, but they said they understand the concerns. Prosecutors relayed the desire of the victims' families regarding their request for remote access to the proceedings to the court. Wood and Blake said in a statement to EastIdahoNews.com, we believe the court will work to balance all parties' rights to fair trial and the neutrality and integrity of the jury process with the request of the victims' families for remote access to the proceedings, which did not happen. John Pryor, Chad Daybell's attorney, is the one lawyer who supports cameras in the courtroom. He filed a motion in October asking Boyce to allow live streaming of the trial, but it was denied. With family members of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy scattered across Louisiana, New York, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, and other states, Woodcock hopes Boyce take their concerns seriously. Everybody in Southeast Idaho, please, for God's sake, make your voices heard, Woodcock says. If you have the ability to write to the court, call the court, contact the court, please do. This is not difficult. This needs to be done. Everybody do what you can to support an effort to put cameras back in court for the trial. Please do that for JJ and for Tylee and Tammy. I wanted to show you this quickly. This is the playlist that I have for you in the description box. Oh, thank you so much. Consuelo Medina. Grizzly, you're amazing. Thank you for intelligence and research. Oh, thank you so much. This is the playlist that I made for you guys, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. So if you go to, got details here. Idaho, Lori Vallow's friends and family. Did anyone know? Idaho case, Lori Vallow Daybell, timeline details, and many deaths in her orbit. Go there. Go check it out. There's lots of those visual types of mind maps and a big deep dive that I had to actually rewatch my own stuff here and make notes again to be like, wait, what? I did a really deep dive at the time. This was streamed 11 months ago. You can see from 11 months ago, started covering the case and breaking it down, which was a lot. To this is a tangled web. Alec murder is no tangled web compared to this case. My goodness, this case is very hectic. But if you check out this playlist, there's lots of content here for you to check it out, as well as this was 2 days ago, Lori Vallow trial, Chad Daybell's shocking blessing, 18 days before Alex Cox died. So we've got that as well. All right. Then before we go, I wanted to show you this, which is East Idaho News. Let me show it like this. So East Idaho News, Nate Eaton, we've played some of his clips before, especially in the Dylan Rounds case and all of that. So here he is outside the courtroom. And the reason I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to just put it on 1.25 speed, is because we're going to see Larry and Kay Woodcock speak outside afterwards. Oh, sorry.
One point, and Kay looked at her. Larry Woodcock told me that during the break, Larry made eye contact with her 8 times during the morning session. She has shown no type of any.
We need a Grizzly boost over here quickly. Hold on. There we go.
Real emotion as far as tears or anything. It's been a very somber day in the courtroom. I can describe the feeling as that. There are a lot of reporters in there. We all have our laptops out. We're all doing updates. And after the morning recess, apparently some jurors complained that it was too loud, all the typing. So we're trying to type quieter. But we're going to keep you posted. If you want to read the minute-by-minute updates, go to eastidahonews.com. We've got them on there. I'm tweeting about it. Pardon the typos. I'm typing very quick. We're trying to get it all covered for you. A lunch break will end at 12:45. We'll be back inside the courtroom. Yeah, come on up, Jordan. Let's see who we have.
I just love it. He's like, okay, let's go. Jordan, the camera guy, is like, oh my word, we're running.
The court will continue at the pace they're going. I think the case is moving right along. I'm very proud of the court.
That is Larry Woodcock, JJ's grandfather. We saw throughout the opening statements pictures, I showed you Larry and Kay Woodcock. Also, someone said it makes sense that they cannot take notes, the jury, into deliberations if a note-taking juror misinterprets something and refers to their notes, the others may take it as fact. Yes. Oh my word, absolutely, Marie, absolutely. If we're going to get anything. I don't know if it will be televised. I don't know if we'll get only audio. Whatever we get. Oh, hell yes.
The court system, the lawyers, and I think it's been a fair and balanced court so far.
What's your message for those that are supporting you and your family?
Thank you. It was all about where are the kids, and now it's about justice, and that's all I'm going to pray for, continue to pray for, is that the court continues in the directions that they're going, and that this proceeds as it should proceed. We want a fair and honest verdict, whichever way it goes. That's all we're asking for. Listen to the evidence and make a fair and honest verdict. Can't ask for any more than that. This is what this is all about.
What was it like to see Lori in court today?
The question is, what was it like to see Lori in court today? I mean, we've already seen some court proceedings together before, and it's like, wow, imagine having to look at her like, yeah, Larry stares at her like, yeah. And he apparently, as you heard Nate say, made eye contact with her 8 times in these opening statements.
It was stressful. It was, it's what we expected. Nothing more, nothing less. And for that, what else can you ask for? Just give us a fair and just court. That's all we're asking for.
Larry, you said you made eye contact with her 8 times before that morning recess. What was that like when she saw you? Did she keep her eyes fixed on you, or did she quickly look away?
She looked away rather quickly. And I just wanted to look in her eyes. It's just that simple. I just wanted to just look in her eyes. And at this point, I'm not even asking why. Her why would never be justification. And so for that, I saw what I wanted to see.
What did she seem like in there? What was her demeanor like to you?
Irrelevant. I think that sums it up. Just an irrelevant relevancy on her part.
Damn. Okay.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Welcome to membership, Joanne Jackson.
We'll be in and out, so look forward to seeing you all.
Are you looking forward to testifying? Are you looking forward to telling your side of the story?
I don't think they want me.
Jordan, the camera guy. He's like, oh, get it set up, get it set up.
Testifying. I think that would be my surprise. That's how you do it. You know, you don't make stuff up. You don't give excuses. You just yes, no.
Mary, I had a question for you. What kind of justice do you want to see?
I want
You're not wrong, Happy Go Ducky. They have a shovel and a pickaxe. Oh, when I heard about the pickaxe, that was so scary. Well, something else, they found a Chad's property with Tylee's DNA. So she was definitely dismembered on his property. Mm-hmm. Yep. So what we've covered today was just opening statements, right? And before this, I covered Chad Daybell's blessing to Alex Cox, just to show like, whoa, that was a mic drop moment, because it's very premeditated. I mean, Alex Cox died 18 days later and he's talking about him going to the next round. So there's that. This is now opening statements, and there's still, I mean, there's so much that's already happened in the first 5 days of the trial, even though Wednesday was cut short. There's a lot to summarize, to stream with you guys. I'm going to do my best to bring you as much of that as possible, while at the same time, of course, covering full-time the Letecia Stauch trial. So, yes.
justice to be a unanimous justice, and I want it to be a fair justice. And I'm not here. I don't have to prove her innocent or guilty. There's 12 good people that have stood up and volunteered for this, and it's not up to me to tell them how to do their business. I would never do that. And I think I truly believe that the judge, the court system, is righteous to the truth, and I do believe that.
You know, this has been more than 3 years coming. What's it like to finally have this day in court?
It's been 4 years. Can y'all believe that? 4 years. A lot of things have changed in all of our lives. You know, maybe some of y'all weren't here. Maybe some of y'all seen it. You were in college or high school, or married, divorced. Parents have died. Things change, and the consistent thing about this is Kay and I have never one time altered, gave up, and wanted to.
And that is so true. Ooh, they gave me goosebumps. They've never once given up or anything. They're just going for it. They just want justice for JJ and Tylee and Tammy. But yes, exactly. Don't worry, Maria, I'm all good. I've got a very good self-care balance going on.
We just want justice for everybody involved. And if justice says that Lori's not guilty, you know, Lori's going to have to answer to somebody else. It won't be me.
How important is this day in court to you and today?
Oh, it's very important. This is what the judicial system is all about. Is our day. That's all about. It's just give us our day in court. Let the truth.
Yes, give us our day in court. And it's finally happening after 4 years of them just pushing. Come on, let's go. Lori Vallow playing all sorts of games. Amy says, I fell in love with this channel and chat. Thanks all for getting nothing done. Much appreciated coverage. Thank you so much for being here.
Be known. This is not complicated. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel. Just say what you know, be able to prove it, and you know, let's go on about our lives. But I believe in the system. I absolutely believe in the system.
It's nice to hear, right? It's got full faith in the system. Let those wheels of justice turn. Tammy Marie, thank you so much for your sticker.
Thank you, Larry. Thank
Thank y'all.
Larry, do you plan to be here every day throughout the whole trial?
Unless the good Lord's got something else that I need to do for him, yeah, I'll be here.
Would you mind showing us your bracelets?
Oh, well,
How do you wear those every day?
I wear them. I've worn them ever since the first one we ever received, and I can't take those off because this is not just about.
Man, this guy gave me all kinds of goosebumps, right? Larry Woodcock, he's amazing. Shelley says, please everyone keep Lindsey, that's the lead prosecutor. We heard her in the opening statements, in your hearts tonight and tomorrow. Her dad's viewing is tonight and the funeral in the morning. Thank you so much, Shelley, for that information. So it's Lindsey Blake's dad that passed away, which is why there's no court tomorrow, which I think is very nice of the court as well. There's no court happening tomorrow for Lori Vallow's trial. We're going to have a full day for Letecia Stauch's trial, though. But yes, Lindsey's dad's funeral is tomorrow.
Tylee and JJ. This is about Charles and Tammy and others. And we know who those others are. So it's, it's important. It's important for me, for myself, and for Kate that we all remember everybody in this. This was simply not the death of two children and how this has affected everybody's life. I mean, it's just, we just want justice. That's all. And I truly believe in the court system. I'm the biggest advocate of 12 jurors and a fair and honest judicial system. And I think we've got it. I really do. And let's just continue that this will continue this way, and that everybody is just speak the truth. That's all it's all about. Anything else?
Thank you.
NC says there was a total of 4 people that lost their lives, correct? So Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, Tylee and JJ, Lori's children, Charles Vallow, Lori's 4th husband, and then Alex Cox, who they say he died of natural causes, blood clots and high blood pressure. But I wonder about that one still. But 5. But yes, 4 murdered.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, we're still live. Jordan? Let's just reestablish here. We're still live.
Sorry, I'm just loving this camera going everywhere. It's like, okay. Camera's going.
Oh, sorry, everyone. All right, sorry about that. We're on the fly here at the courthouse. We're going to take a lunch break because we got to be back in court in less than 30 minutes tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. This is on East Idaho News. They giving updates as in the lunch breaks and on the website and everything. So I'm also following along there, and I will do my very best to bring you summaries, updates, live streams, whatever in this trial, because whoa, what a crazy case it is! What a crazy case! So thank you so much all for being here. And for those of you who became members, thank you so much. Check out the members only playlist. If you want to get notifications all the time, which work really well, Patreon is the place to be. Patreon is also a really great source of support because they take 10% from content creators versus YouTube taking half of everything. Stickers, membership, everything. YouTube takes half. So the best is Patreon or PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee or all of that. But I really, really appreciate every single member, every single supporter, viewer, subscriber, everyone. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell so you don't miss out when I'm next doing an upload, going live, whatever it is that I'm doing for you. I'm always doing something. So today I uploaded the Letecia Stauch phone calls without my interruptions because yesterday we had an all-nighter. It was an all-nighter for me, starting at I think it was 10 o'clock at night and going till 4 or 5 in the morning, something like that. So yes, go check that out if you want the no interruption one. There's also the live stream replay with lots of commentary that we had. And yes, now, take brief breaks too. I do. What do you guys think? Hello. I know how to manage myself, okay? Forest walks, hammock time, foot baths, treadmill time, everything. We're good. We're good over here. Time with Mr. Grizzly, time with Fury, the snarky cat. Kathy Rupright, thank you so much. Thanks for keeping me entertained this weekend. Being in bed with vertigo. Oh, vertigo sucks. I've had that before. I'm so sorry about that. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you so much for your sticker. And thank you so much, mods. I know we've been very, very busy. I don't see any end to this. We'll be very busy forever and ever, okay, on Grizzly True Crime. So thank you so much for volunteering your time and being a moderator on this channel. We are covering the Letecia Stauch trial. I'm doing summaries of Lori Vallow's trial because we only have audio. So I really have to bring pictures and all kinds of stuff. I have to produce a few things, takes a little bit of time to listen to it all. Think of the summaries we can bring, put the pictures together, but we're covering that as well. And then we've got Troy Driver's trial at some point in the Naomi Irion case. We've got Richard Allen's trial at some point in the Delphi case, Brian Koberger, and all all sorts. There's so much happening. Taylor Shea Business. I know the West Boys trial is happening now too. That's also audio only, and you may not stream it. So there's that. And if you miss it, you miss it. Like there's no archive of it either, which is a little bit difficult to follow that. But yes, I'm following along on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, come follow me at True Crime Gizla. There's a lot of impersonators on Twitter of my account. So just know that I'm at True Crime Gizla. Okay. So fans like, thanks for being honest, G. Yeah, there's just no end in sight. It's not just a stamina stint. It's just, this is how we roll. So thank you so much. And I will see you all again very soon. We'll see what happens later, or I'll see you tomorrow for Letecia. Oh my word, day 9 of the trial. This stream should lead you to that one. So if it doesn't, I'll post the link in the chat now, as well as the playlist for the Vallow case is in my description box. Okay, bye everyone.